So we're now at a position where we can print the image. And if we just have a quick recap of what we've done, we can see all the layers. All the layers are intact for the work that we've done there. We can see the info panel, and we've got Pro Photo RGB, 16 bits per channel. It's been shaped or sized to 16" by 12", and it will print at a printer resolution of 354 pixels per inch. Okay. We can see the history of the work that we've done in the history panel. So we're ready to go to print. So we need to go to File and Print. Now so far we've been using Lightroom, which has been color managing in the background all our images. We've sent it to Photoshop, and again we've ensured that Photoshop color manages the image through the Pro Photo RGB color space, 16 bits per channel. What we don't want is just to hand the image over to the printer and say, well, just get on with it, basically. Now normally the default setup for this is the printer interface, and this will of course differ depending on the Windows version that you're using, the printer type that you're using, whether you're using a Mac computer. So, but you should get similar sort of controls whichever system you're using. Now at the moment it's set to printer manages colors, and if we go to the printer settings, you'll probably find that like in the advanced controls, you can, if the print comes out a little bit too red, we can maybe change the colors to a little bit green and blue. This is what we don't want. We don't want to have to start tweaking the printer system to compensate for errors that it's making itself. So I'm going to cancel that. So I'll show you how to set up the printer so that Photoshop continues to manage the printer itself. So it doesn't matter that we've got lots of layers. We're in 16 bits per channel, Pro Photo RGB color space. Photoshop knows this, and it knows the capabilities of the printer, and it knows that through a printer profile. So first of all, we need to go to color handling and change it to Photoshop manages colors. And then we need to tell Photoshop how to manage those colors, and that is through the printer profile. Now I'm using an Epson Stylus Pro 4800 printer. I'm using Epson genuine inks, and I'm using Permajet Oyster paper. So those are the three things that we need to, the profile needs to understand. So if I go to the printer profile drop down, you can see that because it's an Epson printer, when I install the printer driver, all of these Epson profiles got installed as well. So if I'm using the Epson printer, Epson ink and Epson paper, these are the profiles appropriate to whichever paper I'm using. But I've also installed the profiles from Permajet, and here's the one for Oyster. So my printer, Oyster. And if we look at this, it says APJ, which is Permajet, OEM, which stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer's Ink. So I'm using Epson ink. There's the 4800, that's the printer type. PK stands for Photo Black. So I'm using Photo Black as opposed to matte black ink. There's the paper, Oyster, and it's got PGPP, Premium Glossy Photo Paper, and we need to understand that shortly. So there's the printer, number of copies. We can change the orientation of the paper to suit the image. Down here we've got scale. We don't want any scaling because within Photoshop we've scaled it to exactly 16" by 12". So we don't want any of that being enabled. Up here it's saying remember to disable the printer's color management in the print setting dialog box. Basically we're telling Photoshop to manage the colors, but until we disable the printer's color management system, the printer will also be trying to do the same thing, and we'll end up with an awful mess. So we need to disable the printer's color management system. So go to print settings, and we get this dialog box up here for this particular version of Windows, for this particular printer, Epson printer. But you should say get similar sort of dialog boxes for other kinds of printers and systems. First of all, I'm just going to go to page layout, and again I'm looking for reduce and enlarge. I don't want any resizing of the image. We can change the paper size. The paper size needs to be sufficient to encompass the size of the image, and you can see at the moment I've got Super A3 size selected, and it does actually fit nicely our print. And we can change the orientation in there as well. But those are the main things I want to set in there. Then we go back to the main here. Now normally you'd find that we've got something like color controls selected here, and this is where the printer is still trying to manage the printing system. So we want that to change to off, no color adjustment. And with the different versions of Windows and different printer drivers, this selection or this option has appeared in different areas. So you might have to search through your menus to find this off, no color adjustment. So it's telling the printer management system itself, don't work, leave it all to Photoshop. If we look up here, we've got premium glossy photo paper, and across here we've got PGPP. So this profile is relying on the fact that you've gone and selected in here photo paper, not one of these, but it's premium glossy photo paper. So that's what that means. So please select the media type to that. And you probably find that most papers that you select down here will require that setting as opposed to a matte paper. So it's usually gloss or matte that these profiles are based on. Make sure it's color. Print quality, maximum quality is the general setting for that. And we've got the paper size, which we've already determined. Super A3 just encompasses our print there. If we want to save those settings, we can go to Save up here. That brings up a menu here, and we can put in a name, and I've called mine No Management. I've already saved it, so I won't do it again. I'll just cancel that. But you can see up here, the drop-down menu, we've got No Management. If I just select that, that will automatically set all of these settings here. So that's what we need. That is what that is telling us to do. That's what we've done. Off, no color management, and we've set one or two other settings that we need for a good quality print. Select OK. So now we should be able to print. And you can see that this is actually in centimeters, but the height and the width is OK. The printer resolution is OK. So all we've got to do now is say, oh, let's just check here. We've got relative colorimetric or perceptual, and depending on which one of these you have selected, you have a description. Normally you'd have that to relative colorimetric, but you might find it prints a little bit better with perceptual. So I'll leave that relative colorimetric, and it tells you in the description how that changes the relative colors and tones if they're heading towards clipping in the image. And you'd normally have black point compensation selected as well. So then all you've got to do is go to print. Another dialog box will probably come up, and away you go. So that is how you ensure that Photoshop manages the printing of your image, and what you see on the screen should be virtually the same as what comes out of the printer. It won't be exactly the same because the screen and the printer use totally different technologies, but it should be as near as damn it.